Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is a 10K subscriber special. I want to thank everyone with Astral Club, from the oldest supporters to the newest supporters. Thank you. I am extremely appreciative of this first milestone. Thank you. If you'd like to become a patron of Astral Club, uh, like folks like Diana Gabriela Becerra Mora, who is an Astral Scout of Astral Clubs, and Michael Ian, who increased his contribution from Astral Scout to Astral Master. And they get no commercial, advanced videos and emails where we can talk back and forth very easy. And if you'd like to become part of supporting Astral Club on Patreon, you'll find a link in the description. Next up, if you'd like to learn Astral Project and would like a class with me, I'd be more than glad to help you. If you're new, I can help get you started. And if you're an experienced projector, perhaps I can help you with your targeting or your quantity or quality of astral projections. At any rate, if interested, there will be an email in the description. Recently, when I was visiting the Gray Planet to talk to my friend Ken about a number of strategic thoughts that I had about the upcoming peace conference, I had the opportunity to get more in depth with him. He's very friendly, almost too friendly from a Gray standard. He's almost human in that, and it's quite rare, based on my previous dealings with these people, that he is as friendly and as human eccentric as he is. So he's a great source of information. So I asked him a number of questions, and I obtained all this information about their planet. Please bear with me. What usually happens with me is when I get back to my body, and it's a really important experience, I'll get up and I'll scrawl pages and pages on my little white tablet here. And sometimes I have a hard time reading it later on, but I think I can muddle through. The current home of the Greys is not their original home. They came to this particular planet thousands of our Earth years ago when there was excessive volcanism on their home planet, which increasingly made the environment there hostile and unlivable. Their current planet is in the Zeta Reticuli system. It's a binary system about 40 light years away from Earth. They have one reddish orange star. That's what it looked like to me. And one yellow star that looked a lot like our sun. It never gets dark there. As a matter of fact, that's something they think is kind of scary and kind of neat about Earth, is that it gets dark. And it's just, there's a combination of thrill inside them and also extreme fear, because this is such a new experience for them. Really, it just never gets dark there, and it varies between very bright, extremely bright, when the two suns are high in the sky, and it doesn't really get any worse than twilight there. Now, I was told that very occasionally there's a situation where an eclipse might happen and one of the suns is eclipsed while the other one is below the horizon. But those are very remarkable events which they've noted in their history. It doesn't occur very often. The planet is very hot by Earth standards. The temperatures often vary between 100 and 145 degrees Fahrenheit, or 38 and 63 degrees centigrade for folks with the metric system. Most of the planet is desert and barren, although cooler temperatures occur at their poles. There's no polar ice. I could see that when I approached the planet. But I was told, certainly by Ken, that because he's up there in the North Polar region, that temperatures can fall as low and as chilly as 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 C, which for them is unbearably cold. Solar radiation is less as well up north at the poles. It's considered a great sacrifice, and these people are honored for working at these poles because the Greys find weather that cold very uncomfortable, much as humans would consider working at the North or South poles here on Earth uncomfortable. Given their choice, Greys prefer Earth explorations in places like Arizona, New Mexico, and Southern California because the terrain and the weather reminds them of home. The only precipitation in the form of rain or dew occurs at the poles. Rain elsewhere is extremely rare, and if it does happen, it comes down in a torrent and it lasts for a very short time. They get their water from very deep aquifers inside the planet. The Greys have evolved, and I think cloning played a part, genetic manipulation in this as well, is that they have evolved, changed their bodies, what have you, to survive on minimal water. The Greys don't perspire as we do, and they rarely suffer from overheating. They excrete what I would call large rabbit pellets, very dense, minimal water. If they are certain of a source of water that will be available to them, they will from time to time excrete this kind of see through, transparent, viscous fluid from the surface of their body. And I believe that's sort of their version of urine. But I'm told that it has very little water in it. But it's generally held in some sort of an organ, which we humans have no equivalent. And that it's held there until the body knows that water will be available so that it can afford to lose the amount of water it's going to lose in this excretory process. But like I said, it's held off until the presence of water has been confirmed. So they must have some sort of a semi conscious control over that whole process. Obviously, perspiration, works for us, but we don't have as much control over it. Most sightings of the Greys, therefore, due to their interest in warmer temperatures, happens during warm summers here on Earth or in the Southwest. They become sluggish and can enter a hibernation state if they're exposed to cold weather for too long. I believe they're the equivalent of cold-blooded, much like snakes, crocodiles, beings like that, which has its pluses and minuses. If you live on a very hot planet, well, there's a lot fewer minuses. On a planet like Earth, with our varying temperatures, then certainly there's advantages and disadvantages. But for them, for the most part, there's not a lot of disadvantages given the planet that they live on. But when they visit planets like Earth, that's when they got to deal with some of these different temperatures. I was told by Ken when I asked him, where his favorite place on Earth was. Yeah, he told me the Arizona desert in what we call the summertime. He says the temperatures are just perfect and so comfortable. I just have to laugh because I can just imagine him out, sunning himself in Death Valley or what have you with 125 degrees Fahrenheit and just sitting there saying, wow, what a nice, beautiful temperature this is. They have tall towers in each city with a glass-like mirror at the top. And there's various intricate symbols on this mirror. When the suns hit a certain spot, it illuminates these various symbols, and that tells them jointly when to break for meals, rest, work, play, etc. I asked Ken a question which occurred to me pretty quickly when I started thinking about what it would be like to have a physical body right there on their planet. And I asked him, "Do you guys have any air conditioning equipment?" At first, he didn't understand what I was talking about, but then I projected the idea of all this cool air coming out of this machine, and he recoiled at the very idea. It revolted him. They didn't see the need for anything like this. And I guess it's more of a mammalian thing at the end of the day. They do use some heating equipment, though, that's solar powered at the poles. The Greys are very advanced in genetics. I think that's kind of widely known. They have used this science to adjust their bodies to thrive on their current planetary home. By galactic standards, the Greys are close to Earth. As I said, they're only 40 light years away, which is which is far. But if you think about a galaxy that is 100,000 light years across, then they're kind of close. Their motherships use a gravitic type based propulsion, and it makes a series of jumps through wormholes in space time. I was unable to understand exactly how this works. I don't know whether they somehow open these things, these wormholes, in some manner using their drive, or if they are naturally occurring and they merely map them and then follow them along. These subspace pathways are apparently, though, constantly in flux. So many sophisticated calculations have to be made before each of these these jumps rather. It can take a gray mothership only nine Earth months to 1 year to make the journey to Earth, which, when we're talking about 40 light years, that is amazingly fast. But of course, if they're using these wormholes, they're not traveling fast. They're taking shortcuts constantly, because you can't move faster than the speed of light in normal space, which of course they're aware of, and that's why they use these wormholes as a means to dramatically cut travel times. They have leisure areas, and they're equipped with a variety of entertainments. One game features varying numbers of thin steel rods being thrown on the ground. Depending on how they fall and what pattern determines how the game evolves. I didn't understand the rules, but sometimes the participants became excited, making high-pitched squealing sounds. There isn't any winner or loser like in our games, however. I mean, I asked Ken about who's winning, who's losing, and he didn't quite understand what I was talking about. Apparently, it's a very cooperative situation. In essence, they all win or they all lose, which makes sense for their type of society. At any rate, they seem to be having a very fun time throwing these thin rods. Okay. They also have very advanced flat film TV that broadcasts views of the various planets, which are many that they visited, as well as the creatures that they have seen, and some of which they brought back to their planet. And Ken told me that this technology was shared with Earth, along with genetic technology, many years ago. So I wonder if perhaps that information was leaked through some private companies who ended up developing it here for us on Earth. Because the image, it looked like you could literally touch the wall and you'd be on the planet. That's how real it was. The Greys have a kind of caste system. Their soul essence migrates from one body to another with the assistance of a tech that, despite Ken's explaining how it works, just went zooming over my head. And this is always very frustrating. Apparently, though, when a gray's body reaches around 350 or 400 years old, it's not worth patching up anymore. So they migrate to a newly cloned body designed to match their previous physical body exactly. The old body, unlike here on Earth, is not treated with any special reverence. They simply toss it and dissolve it in a batch of chemicals. And that's the end of that. They have a military caste, which is not armed on the planet, but is armed when they leave the planet. They have scientists, they have medical people, leaders, and creative types, artists, musicians. Although I don't know too much about the art and the music end of things. Farmers, as I mentioned earlier, are present as well, and they are honored for their extreme sacrifices in enduring the unbearable cold of room temperature, at least from our standpoint. The Greys eat the fungus that I saw and described to you in earlier videos. It's like a staple for them, as we would see bread or rice here on Earth. They also grow various vegetables and fruits. They don't eat meat. The Greys enjoy a white liquid that grows in a plant wild at their North Polar region. It's considered a delicacy, and it has some sort of sacred status that I couldn't understand when Ken tried to explain it to me. You can talk back and forth using telepathy and sharing experiences, but there's just certain things that require deep knowledge of a culture to even have a prayer at understanding the deep things of a society. And that can be, as I've mentioned in previous videos, quite frustrating. I asked Ken, since we were talking about foods, if he ever tried any earth food. He said he quite enjoyed the white fluid that they harvested from some of our cacti, in the various deserts in North America and elsewhere. And but he said, of course, it had to be treated by their medical people for contamination by bacteria, viruses, and heavy metals. And I could tell he was a lot more concerned about the heavy metals than the other two. He shook his head in a very human-like show of disapproval over the presence of toxic substances like heavy metals. I had to touch on a little bit harder a question that I'd kind of danced around previously, which is their genetic experiments with humans. I couldn't hide my distaste, and Ken was very understanding. He knows now that humans do not approve of this experimentation, and he respects that. It was one of the reasons why he asked to be transferred from the Expeditionary Force Command to running the Agricultural Center in the North. It's very rare for their people to switch castes like that, but he's a very respected commander to this date, and so if he wanted to serve in that purpose, it was honored, and he was allowed to switch castes as you will. However, he struggled still to understand why we had such a problem, as they didn't physically hurt the subjects. I tried to explain the emotional harm and the violation of free will of the individual, but he just didn't get it. In their society, all for one and the collective good is the main principle. The concept of a single person going their own way, expecting complete privacy, is such a foreign concept to their race that they don't quite get it. At any rate, he said they had permission from our governments for the experimentation in exchange for tech. So Thank your politicians. They love to bargain away and give away things that aren't theirs to bargain with or give away. Once again, he indicated that the purpose of the genetic experiments was to create a hybrid body of human and gray that could exist comfortably on both planets. He assured me that their population was much lower than Earth, and any of these hybrids who might be negotiated to live on Earth, and some are already here, by the way, their numbers would always be small. Um, they don't reproduce at a high rate as we do. I didn't sense any particular deception on this case. I mean, I'd be dishonest if I said I wasn't a little concerned about this whole process. I am. At the same time, our governments have given them permission to do this experimentation. So there we are. The Greys host a number of representative allied races on their planet. The Nordics and the praying mantis type aliens have ambassadors on their planet. And there's others as well, but those are the ones that he showed me. Uh, their cities are connected by vast underground transport systems. The system serves as a refuge during occasional extreme solar activity, as well as, of course, a way to travel between cities. There's a large distance between many of their cities, and their cities are much less densely populated than ours are. Uh, and their bodies are very radiation resistant. However, when they get a CME, a coronal mass ejection, they take refuge in this deep underground transport system to protect them, because even their radiation resistant bodies can't handle these major CMEs that come from one or both of their sons. I don't know exactly which. I didn't really ask. So it's I had the impression then that they don't have the robust magnetic protective field that Earth does, or at least it's not as strong as ours. Uh, because I found no image in their mind that would be like our aurora borealis. And of course, the aurora borealis, or the northern lights, are seen when solar storms hit our strong magnetic field. So if their planet doesn't have a very strong magnetic field, they wouldn't get auroras. So that's another advantage that Earth has over the current gray planet. For short travel, I saw a helicopter type flying machine that is used for short hops. And they also have something that looks kind of like a hovercraft that works quite well in a sandy environment. So they use that for short trips as well. Knowledge is caste based. So Greys are raised with training that is very much involved in their particular caste. Now, all Greys get a basic education. I would say that every Grey would get whatever their equivalent is up to an undergrad degree. Everybody. But when you're into, but the castes then supplement that basic education, which is what they consider basic, with additional information they need to do well as a scientist, a military person, you name it. As I have said previously, their society is governed by a council, and the Greys are very much they very much revere this council. Now, it's not elected as we do here in many of our governments on Earth. But it is, well, it's really a continual council. It's the same council they've had for thousands of years, because as the counselors wear out, then they get re, you know, reincarnated in a clone body that was an exact, although younger, copy of their previous self. A lot of their, and this whole soul energy transfer process apparently is imperfect in that it doesn't completely transfer over all information, all memories consciously when they switch from the old to the new bodies. This education system is rather rapid as we would consider it, because essentially what they're doing is they're using it to spark subconscious memories within the Greys to remember their memories from their last body. It's so their education system is essentially bolstering and unearthing the knowledge that they had, that they kind of lost when they switched bodies, but now they're trying to recall it from a subconscious state. It was quite fascinating to see the process. Now, their planet acts, their army acts as a sort of police force. Now, they're unarmed in their civic duties. Violence is unheard of. The police act more like arbiters if some minor disagreements break out. There's various laws associated with privacy, with government buildings, with trespassing. They're very big on not trespassing. Everybody has to know their place. And based on who they are, how old they are, what knowledge they have, what place they are in their caste, determines where they go, what they do for work, what their place is on, in the caste system within their society, as well as, what they eat. There's where they live. It's a very involved system, and we might think of it as a little too conservative, perhaps, because they pride themselves on the continuity of the council. I did ask about accidents, though, and occasionally Greys will suffer accidents. They'll have a crash somewhere on another planet, or they'll have some sort of a crash or an accident on their current planet. In which case, if the body dies and degrades before they can get to it, they consider that consciousness as lost. I wanted to get more into their, let's call it, spiritual beliefs, but I sensed that would have taken much longer than I had, and I knew I was getting towards the end of my trip, and I had other things I wanted to accomplish, which we'll talk about more in the future. As I said, though, criminality is extremely rare. When it does occur, it's thought that cloning faults somehow accumulated and that there was a dysfunction that occurred in the cloned body such that behavioral problems, medical problems would crop up. They're very matter of fact, and we might even consider a little unfeeling and or brutal, in that they make a very business oriented decision, and they take a look at the person and decide whether the maladaptive behavior, perhaps as a result of a cloning error that snuck in, whether it can be corrected in an effective way, or whether it's just too difficult and impossible to correct. In that case, the person is scrapped. That is the best English word that I can use to describe the image that I got and the feeling that I got. Scrapped. Think about that word. There's not a lot of emotionalism associated with that word, is there? I was shocked, but Ken looked at the problem very matter of factly. For him, it was a broken machine or body which is of no use to their people. So why maintain it? The Greys all wear a device essentially the size of a smartphone on their person. It is used to detect radiation levels. It's used in communication in ways that I saw it being used, but I didn't understand how they were using it. I didn't see them pressing buttons and I didn't see a visible screen. I was shown an example, but I just couldn't make out how it was used or controlled. Apparently, it's controlled telepathically, and there's a skill to it, kind of like learning how to use a Samsung Galaxy or an iPhone. There's always a little bit of a hurdle if you're doing it for the first time. Uh, and I believe it's also used to keep them connected in some way and probably monitored too. And we're dealing with this collective society. And they're all very regimented. And so they might want to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're supposed to be doing it. Uh, I then had to accomplish some other matters there, so I couldn't ask any more questions. However, if you found this information interesting, why don't you hit the like button, share it with those of like minds, subscribe if you haven't already, and 3/4 of you have already subscribed, which, according to what I found on YouTube and Google, is crazy good. Uh, so subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, make sure that bell is on so you're notified when the Wednesday at 2 o'clock p.m. and the Saturday at 8:15 a.m. videos are released. And that, of course, is Eastern time, which is the same as New York City time. Please, I'd very much be interested in your input. What do you think about Grey Society? What are the good points? What are the bad points? Uh, I'd love to know your thoughts or your questions, and I'll do what I can do. Once again, thank you, everyone. We are over 10,000 subs. I never expected this in a million years, and I'm very grateful to be able to share some time and some space with the amazing people who have become a part of Astral Club. And I am extremely just blown away by the reception of such a highly evolved and amazing group of individuals. Well, once again, this is Rick, and as always, I will see you on the astral plane.